This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Exciting show today. A lot of exciting stuff going on in the world of professional bass fishing. Redcrest wrapping up this past week. Dustin Connell getting his second Redcrest victory. That puts him in some pretty rare company as far as titles go. We will talk more about Redcrest in the second half of the show. Also, practice has wrapped up for the Bassmaster Classic. 3 days of official practice. If you listen, we had Kyle Patrick in studio last Wednesday. He kind of walked through what the classic prep and practice is, which is absolutely wild, with the 3 days and then like 4 days off, and then they get an official day of practice. All sorts of crazy stuff when it comes to Classic Week. Our guest today will get to experience that next year in Fort Worth, Texas at the 2025 Bassmaster Classic. We're like a week behind schedule, but just the way things work, we have the latest winner of the Bassmaster Open EQ, the third EQ of the season that went down last week in South Carolina on famed Santee Cooper. I've actually had Kyle Austin on before. He talked a little bit about what it's like guiding there, talking about guiding for catfish there. Pretty dang good bass fisherman there too, as he lapped the field. And what I would say, after talking with him a little bit and reading what went on in Bassmaster and the articles and some of the other interviews that he's done, one of the most tactical and well-planned victories in recent tournament history that I can remember. So, like I said, we'll get into classic stuff. We'll get into Redcrest stuff in the second half of the season. But let's bring in Mr. Kyle Austin. Kyle, thank you. You've had to have an exciting last couple of weeks. We got a little audio crack. There we go. Exciting couple of weeks after winning on the home pond.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me again on here on Bass Talk Live. But it's been a crazy week and a half, or whatever. It's been a week now. It's unbelievable. Excited. Get to go to the Bassmaster Classic. That's what it's about. The money comes and goes, but just to get the win right here, pretty much my backyard, it was special.
You're a perfect example of just how, I guess, maddening and beautiful the sport of like high level tournament fishing is. Because I remember talking to you last year. I think we were on the dock at Lake of the Ozarks, and you were battling it out for that one of the last three spots in the Bassmaster EQs, and you fell just a little bit short in Florida.
Yeah.
You had to be crushed when you realized you had to go through it all, but then you saw the schedule come out and saw Santee on this year. Just kind of walk me through the last 6 months of open competition, from fighting so hard to make the Elite Series to seeing your home tournament on the schedule to then doing what you set out to do on Santee Cooper.
Yeah, so when I missed it last year, I think by 1 or 2 spots. It come down to the last day of the season, and you know how it is. It's 9 tournaments. It's pretty much 18 days of guaranteed fishing. It is not easy. And last year was, those guys, they caught them really well. So it was a lot of people would think it'd fire you up to go back at it again, but honestly, it kind of was hard to sign back up. It took a lot out of me. I felt like I did my job last year. I caught them really good, and to come up that short at the end of the year, it definitely sucked. But I got back home. I got married and started working on building our house, and so a lot of distractions from fishing. And then I seen the schedule, and I'm like, you know what, we're going to give it another shot. I feel like I have a good chance at that third tournament, and I think if I could survive the first 2, I felt like the schedule kind of lined up in my favor. So we kind of did that. We survived Florida. Me and Florida did not get along, so we finished like 43rd there, and then went to Lake Washita in Arkansas, and ended up having the worst tournament I've had since probably Lake Oneida in 22. So coming to Santee, I was like, man, if I could just get a top 10, I think I could get back into it. And after a couple days of practice, I was like, maybe we can win this tournament. I'm not sure. So usually locals don't like spawning tournaments, but it was kind of in my favor where a lot of people were distracted on the backwater ponds and a lot of the fish they could physically see with their eyes, and kind of left a lot of water available for guys that were fishing more staging areas or isolated trees and stuff like that available. So it's been a crazy 6 months, that's for sure.
Did I hear you say you were seriously not considering fishing the open EQs this year? Like, were you really considerate? Like, really? You were like, I'm going to get married. I'm going to focus on that. You always had to be in. You can't be that close and then not fish.
I know. That was the deal. I was going to fish. There's no doubt. It's, it just, I don't know. It was just mentally, it was hard to, just come up with like, I got to do this all over again. I mean, when you have that many good tournaments in a row, I mean, I never really had a bad one last year. And still come up short where I felt like I did, in the past decade, I would have qualified for, what I did out there. And so it definitely sucked. But no, I mean, my goal is to fish a Bassmaster Elite Series and to get there. So we're probably going to be here for a while until we do it. But
yeah, last year was insane. 36th, 37th, 47th, 70th, 26th, 29th, 25th, 53rd, and 87th. Like, yeah, that's strong in a field that last year we averaged around 205 boats for every single tournament. That's a lot of good decisions stacked up together.
Right. And it's hard to come up with that. I mean, like, Sam George, me and him travel together, and he's been really close, and we talk. It's the same stuff. Like, you can't explain bites like today, and you can't duplicate that. So a lot of stuff go your way and they'll still come up short, and it kind of sucks, but we'll keep trying.
All right, let's dive into Santee Cooper week, because you mentioned it. It's hard on your home pond, especially during the spawn. It seemed like since I've been covering this 06, 07, it seems like there was the home lake curse for a long time on the Elite Series in the Opens. And then it kind of seemed to flip where a lot of guys, I think that kind of started with Tommy Biffle when that tournament was canceled on the Arkansas River and went to Fort Gibson, where he dominated. We've seen Casey Ashley win a classic in his home lake. We've seen Lee Livesey on lake. We've seen a bunch of guys that have come out. You can actually just take a look at this past Redcrest on Lay Lake with what Dustin Connell did, what he considered his home lake. But I'd really like to break down your week, because I think it's a great case study in practice, in tournament strategy, in fish management, and in managing your expectations and emotions. So one of the things that I think was interesting was that Major League Fishing was there a week before the Bassmaster Open was there. You're familiar with the lake. A lot of guys aren't familiar with the lake. Were you a little nervous that tournament would show guys what they needed to do to catch fish, or did you think it would actually work in your advantage with the changing conditions on Santee Cooper?
Yeah, it was honestly perfect. I'm glad 90% of BBT was out there shaking a minnow and fishing brush and stuff like that, just because I know Santee in March, we get that many. It don't even have to be hot. We get that many days of like slick, calm, no wind, just stagnant water. The fish are coming to the bank. I mean, that's where they want to be 90% of the time on Santee. And, not take nothing away what the BBT guys did. That was pretty cool. I really never thought it could get won the way that it got won. And so I don't know. It felt like it was in my advantage. Felt like a lot of distractions were on that in certain parts of the lakes. And a lot of people forget about Lake Moultrie. With the big tournaments in the past, Lake Marion's kind of dominated, but I spent a lot of time on Moultrie. And so I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, the BBT kind of helped because it wasn't like a spawning tournament where they gave away every single, piece of, the lake on live. It was, I don't know. It's more of a pre-spawn tournament, and our tournament just was completely different from that one.
So how did you break down your practice? 4.5 days. You obviously had to know what you wanted to check, what you wanted to look at, but you also, I would imagine, didn't want to get caught because, I mean, like it or not, you're one of the top 5 favorites, probably the favorite going into it. Everyone knows what your stuff looks like. The last thing you want to do is roll in on a day of practice and have 5 guys go, oh, well, hell yeah, Kyle Austin was fishing that set of trees. Maybe we ought to spend a little bit more time in that.
I know. It's I kind of broke it down. I didn't want to be. I was going to fish out of practice out of a different boat that wasn't wrapped, and I did not do that. I was like, if I do that, I'll probably finish 150th. So let's not try that. Let's fish out my boat. But I did. I've actually the first 2 days of practice, I practice areas I don't spend a lot of time in on the lakes. I was kind of just adding on. If I could find, maybe I could find a couple more areas I can run during the tournament versus what I already think I'm probably gonna run. It could help. So I practiced some different areas. Practiced a couple like really community areas. And then the rest of practice, I kind of purposely was seen in some places. I went to like the hatchery, and I went to duck pond. I went to some of like the most popular backwaters, and just so you know how it is, people talk. They're like, "Oh, I seen Kyle Lawson today in a backwater sight fishing." I seen Kyle today in the backwater sight fishing too. Next thing you know, I never seen a boat on the main lake. Everybody's in the backwater ponds sight fishing. So I don't know if that actually worked. That's just my strategy. My wheelhouse is probably Utahville to the canal on that side of Lake Marion. That is where I grew up. So I practiced there for a half a day, and I really just checked like certain little areas and kind of see what they were doing, and I knew I didn't need to go practice what I already know. Like I know where I'm a fish when I show up on that side of the lake, especially when they're spawning. So I didn't. I kind of practiced backwards. I tried to eliminate water. I fished a lot of brush piles and stuff like that, and kind of eliminated that out of my game plan. So it kind of worked out good. And the guys that see me out there, I'm like, oh, they're not biting out here, so if they think they're out here, then great. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, there are some magnum crappie on some of those brush piles out at Santee. Like I was unaware that there were like 3 to 4+ pound crappie on Santee. Like gigantic fish that you're like, oh my God, he's following my stuff.
I know. And during the tournament, it was weird. There's only the crappie aren't really in the brush right now. They're kind of moving to that shallow water. So if you've seen them, there's only like 2 or 3 crappie in them. So it kind of made you think they were bass. Trust me, I spent like 10 minutes on day 1 fishing for one, and I finally got him to come up and bite, and I'm like, oh, it's a big one, and it comes up, it's a crappie.
I won't say this angler's name because I don't know if he's told this story publicly. But I talked to him after day 1, and he was like, dude, he's like, I found a big one on a bed using perspective mode. And he's like, he had a bad day 1. And he said, I got hung up on it. And he goes, it kept spinning on it. It kept nipping at it. He goes, I hooked it once. It straightened my hook. I hooked it another time. He goes, it was just straight meat. He goes, I'm starting on it tomorrow. So he gets in there. So he said he spent around 3 hours on it on day 1. Because he said it was the right one. He said it just looked massive on perspective. Gets in there day 2, sets up, fishes for it for about half an hour, eats it, lets it swim off, jacks it. He said it peels drag. He said he thinks he's turned it, and it floats up, and he said it's about a 21 inch crappie. He said it was legitimately probably a 4+ pound crappie that he just spent 40% of his tournament time fishing for. he said it was so big that he was actually excited that it was, like big. And when he went to land it, it pulled off. So he spent 40% of his tournament bed fishing for what ended up being a 4-pound crappie.
That's funny.
In hindsight, it's kind of funny. Andrew told it. He made a video about it. It was Upshaw. I was rooming with him. He was very excited about going into day 2. He's like, I'm going to start with an 8-pounder, and then I'm going to go from there. And it was a crappie. So,
so that's how I've always. I'm going to explain Santee. That's how I've always fished big tournaments, man. Is I would find like I'd shake 1 or 2 off on that Wednesday, like big ones, and I'd always start on those in big tournaments on Santee. And sometimes it worked out good, but going into the tournament, I told Sam, I told my parents, I said, if I could just find somewhere where I could start the day with like 18 to 22 pounds, I feel like I could be deadly on the lake. Like if you give me 6 hours on that lake to just fish for 1 or 2 fish, I feel like I could win a tournament. And I found that. So, that's what worked out for me. Just giving me that much time to only have to fish for 1 or 2 fish instead of trying to have to catch 25 pounds all day. It made it extremely, extremely easy for me.
What did you even check on the fish that you started on? Was there a time that you like slid in there and went, "Oh my gosh, it is going to work out for me. Like I know that I'm going to have a sack in the first 10 minutes of this thing."
Yes, kind of. I checked another area that I don't catch many in, but if you get a bite, I know where they're going to be at on
Mhm.
the whole canal system. And I checked another area and I caught like a 6 pounder on like my first cast, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm not going to start there, but I'm gonna start at that eddy that I actually caught him at. I'm gonna start there the first day and see if it's happening. And I did. I pulled up there and I caught him pretty quick. I only had like four for I think like 16 on day one. And then when I left there and went like the first tree I pulled up to, I catch a 6 pounder. So, I mean, I already had like 21, 22 at that point, and I was like, all right, we're in really good shape. And day one, I was kind of surprised. The weights were way better than I anticipated them to be. Like, I was mind blown. Just because I know some local tournaments here, I mean, it ain't took that much weight in forever. Like, in 2 years, I've never seen that many 20 bags in my life. So day two, I was like, we're going to have to staff it up. And I'm surprised, you know, anybody that went to Lake Moultrie on day one seen me. And whether they thought I caught them there or not, they passed right by me. I mean, looked at my boat and all, smile and wave. So day two, when I rounded the corner, nobody was sitting there. I'm like, holy crap, like nobody's there. So I pulled up and I think, I mean, the camera guy didn't even get off a pad good yet because they met me in the canal. They followed me in there. I mean, he didn't even get off a pad yet, and I already had like a 6 pounder, and I
Oh,
caught 27 pounds in I think 12 minutes.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that
then
has to be the most perfectly executed start to a tournament day ever. Like I'm trying to
yeah,
think of an elite series of Major League Fishing, FLW tour and open where it started that perfectly.
I know it was usually like that area I was fishing. That it has burnt me so many times in the past. It's not even funny, especially on Saturdays because I usually don't pull current on Saturdays. And that's what I was worried about. Like going into it, I told Sam, I was like, man, if they're there, it's gonna be a fun week. If not, if they stop pulling current, or if I just don't have that, then I'm gonna grind it out with everybody else. I mean, there's too many fish on the bank to not fish the bank. So it was gonna be a grind if I didn't have that starting spot, and it just worked out. Like I
Was
can't
it
even
every
explain it.
cast? Like how many casts did you go without a bite? I mean, that was that 5 casts?
27 pounds. It was. I probably casted 30 times. I mean, I'd have to hit like the deal is everybody can come there and fish it, but if you don't know the cast when you get there, you're not gonna catch them. Like they literally, you have to hit like the size of a 5-gallon bucket 150 feet away. I mean, it's very precise. I mean, they sit in one little cast, and every time I'd hit that cast, I'd catch one, or I'd miss one, or I'd feel one slap it. I mean, I swear I don't know how many fish were there, but I mean, they were hard to catch. I mean, they weren't easy.
And this was not a live scope deal or anything. This was
No.
growing up on the lake, knowing the little intricacies, home field advantage, and making good on the water decisions.
Yeah, me and my buddy Chase Byers, I grew up with. We were in a John boat when we were younger. We used to go out there. We'd go from Black's Fish Camp right there. We'd go out there and we would just like drift with the current and throw like DT10s and lipless crankbaits. And I actually caught like a 9 something when I was young in a John boat, and we thought it was like massive. Then when I got better at fishing and stuff, I've always kept that little area in my back pocket, and I've caught a lot of fish there. That's for sure. I just never I never think it was going to win me a Bassmaster Open. That's for sure.
Were there any nerves knowing? I mean, you had Scott behind you who was obviously dialed in. You had Laker Howell who was obviously dialed in, a number of different guys. Like it was a dominating victory, but not a runaway victory. Was there any
Right.
thought in the back of your mind that you were going to do what you planned and wanted to do and would just get beat by a mega sack?
Yeah, so I knew if the guys were going to beat me, they were going to have to really catch a big bag because
Mm-hmm.
I knew they were going. I thought they were going to bite again. Um, I was praying they were going to bite again. That's for sure. But that shortened day, it really made me fired up because I knew I was catching mine early, and I knew I studied Bass Track a little bit every day when I come in. You know, I look at Bass Track, and I I was leading the tournament every day until like 1 o'clock. And then everybody would catch back up to me, and then I'd have like a late coal or something and, take the lead back over. But so I knew if I could catch them early and catch like a really big bag, it was going to be hard for them to catch up. I mean, it's 30 pounds is out there. I mean, 35 pounds, 40 pounds, but it's it just ain't easy. I mean, especially on the bank, it's hard to catch them 30 pounds on the bank.
And then you fish clean as well too. Like, no, you didn't dump any giants.
No, I lost one on the final day 3 times on the same tree. That was a good one. But other than that, that was the only one I really felt like I missed.
And then during the tournament, this is the other thing that I find humorous. You would also make, okay, so you had all this day. You had the weight. You didn't want people to see what you're doing. Yeah. I talked to you afterwards when we booked this. You said, yeah, I would drive around and make sure people saw me the rest of the day, like in competition, obviously still trying to upgrade, but making sure that people saw you all over the lake, which is a crazy strategy, but I mean, really smart.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it purposely, but I mean, especially day 2, I had a big bag. I mean, I had 31 pounds. So at that point, I mean, I was just like, purposely like driving around in like certain areas, and I wanted to catch one. I mean, I was just burning down every community hole I knew. I mean, that's just on like day 1, I fished community holes after 8 o'clock in the morning, but I never seen nobody. Like I fished places on that lake where in a local tournament there'd be 30 boats in there, and in this tournament nobody in there, and I'm like, what the heck is happening?
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. It's hard to explain. I've always said that in big tournaments where locals mess up as they try to fish too sneaky of stuff. Like instead of just fishing what we all know. I mean, there's a reason why everybody from here fishes the same trees.
Like on Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah, like it's hard to explain, but like out of towners, they come here, all they see is cypress trees. So they don't know that, hey, that little group over there is the best stretch, or they like all the trees, the out of towners, they look the same. They look great. I mean, they all hold fish, but I don't know. It's just, that's how it's always been. Every big tournament I fished here, as far as like Toyota or Costa or, Bass Open, it blows my mind how many boats you don't see in certain areas.
All right. You mentioned the trees. I drew a kid who was a kind of a local there, and he was explaining to me some of the crazy stuff that locals do to cypress trees out there to make them more desirable. I would like you to kind of touch on that when we come back, if you're willing to. All right. So we're talking with Bassmaster Open EQ angler Kyle Austin, fresh off of his victory in the 3rd EQ of the season on Santee Cooper, a place that is near and dear to his heart. In a very busy week, we're heading into the Bassmaster Classic and wrapping up Redcrest, which we'll jump into in the second half of the show. It's BTL on a Monday, March 18th. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water, whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back. VTL on a Monday, talking with Kyle Austin. All right, so I drew a kid named Nico on the first day. Great kid. Fished for Bethel, and kicked my ass pretty severely. He had like 3 for 12 and was culling, and it's never good when you have one in your co-goes. You want one of these worms? I'm like, no, Nico, I'm good, man. just keep casting back there, bud. It's your day. But he was, I would fish the cypress trees, and every once in a while he'd be like, dude, this is a really good group here. This is a good stretch right here. Like I like where we're at. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I came down in pre-practice, so I kind of had an idea where I wanted. I had a miserable tournament, but it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. But he was explaining some guys like dump gravel around the cypress. They put cinder blocks around them. They carve out the cypress. They do all sorts of stuff. Is that like kind of an art that's been going on for decades at Santee Cooper as far as picking out which of these 75,000 cypress trees that are within sight are going to hold fish?
Yeah, that's definitely. I've never really done it a whole lot. I put bricks around trees before, but it's been a while. I've never said it really works, but the biggest deal is depth change, and there has been some guys out there when the lakes drop with some shovels and digging holes around trees to make them a little bit deeper than the rest of them. But depth change is definitely important on cypress trees.
This is all allegedly urban legends. I don't know what we're talking about, like state, but you're talking about guys that are actually changing the depth around the tree because what makes the fish, like, just inform us uneducated cypress anglers on like why those little things matter.
Have you ever noticed like on like any flat body of water, especially like rivers and stuff like that, dude, a little bit of depth change makes a huge difference. Like even in Florida, I mean, 3 foot to 3.8 foot, that's a huge difference for a fish a lot of times. And that is why they've done it. We call them depressions around trees. I mean, I just think, I don't even know how to explain it. I know if you get around the current, now with live scope, you can honestly see that one side of the tree is deeper than the other side. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but if you pan up there, you can see like a little depression on the side. And that's usually the side the fish sits on. And so, I mean, I've just always heard locals, when the lakes drop, especially in 07 or 06, whenever the lake was 8 foot low back then. And so at that point, every cypress tree in the lake was completely dry. I mean, there was no water on them. And that is when a lot of the local guys that fish a lot of tournaments and stuff, that's when I've heard they went out there and dug holes around trees and done all that crazy stuff. And I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I don't even know how to explain the trees. Some trees, there's no difference in them. It's just places I've gotten bit a billion times. I mean, it's just when you fish that lake as much as I do, I mean, if you fish 100 cypress trees and you notice that those 2 trees over there, that's where I catch them every time, or 90% of the time, those are the trees that get bites on. And you just make a mental note or a waypoint, and I just try to run high percentage areas when I fish that lake.
So do you believe that the fish, like, this is my tree and I'm going to live here for weeks? Or do they do like a hopscotch deal where they like just swim around on the trees? Or do you think like once a fish has a tree, is it its tree for that season, for multiple years? Will I mean, how does that work? Because that was the one thing I had tough time wrapping my head around was, some days they'd be on them and then you'd go back. Like I went back tournament day and I was like, oh boy, like there's no fish on these trees anymore. And I just assumed that they'd still be there.
They move around and it changes hour by hour, but there are certain trees they spawn on, they're a little bit shallower. They like to spawn around them. Usually, I don't even know how to explain those, but it's usually a little bit bigger trees, and they, you could tell they're shallower by the way they arc. If you can see the actual arc above the water, I know they're shallower. But if the tree's slender through the water, it's deeper. And that's how you can pick it. See what I'm saying? That's how you can pick it out by just looking at the trees. That is the easiest way. But some trees, I mean, they're just highways. I mean, it's just like fishing. Like we don't have points on our lake. Like it's just like fishing points. That. You know what I mean? Like we don't have no contour. So
yeah, notice that too.
Yeah, you just have to kind of like it's just growing up there. I never had to explain Santee. I mean, never thought I was gonna win there where I'd have to explain this crap, but it's hard to explain. Like I fished the same tree the second 6 times. The one tree. I fished it 6 different times throughout the day.
And that's because there might be one on the back when you're on the front, or because one pulls up, or because there just was one on it that wasn't in the mood to eat, or
it's just an isolated tree that I have caught a lot of fish on it before. And I have also done the same pattern where I've run it 3 or 4 times during the day. If you just hit it at the right time, one time, that's it. But I did. I caught an 8-pounder there at like 1 o'clock the second day. So, but I fished it at 9 o'clock. I drove back by it at like 10:30. I stopped and fished it again. I, drove by it at like 11 o'clock, fished it again, never had a bite. And it wasn't until like 1 o'clock, and then I caught one on it. And with live scope, I could pan up there and tell you if there's a fish there or not. It used to be we didn't know, but now I could physically. I could tell you, all right, he is not there, and there was never a fish there until 1 o'clock. Now pan up there and you could see it. I was like, whew, crazy.
It's like a mystery.
I know. I don't know where they come from because these trees. Some of the trees I fished are out in the middle of sand flats. There is nothing out there.
I would love to be able to tag one of those fish like Bassmaster used to do. Remember when Bassmaster used to tag the fish and then they could see where they went? Like that would be awesome to do that on the cypress.
I've watched Preston Clark win on Santee on YouTube a quadrillion times, and that is my favorite segment. Is when they used to like put the tracker on the fish and like, oh, we turned it loose in Jack's Creek, and now he's way over here. I thought that was interesting. Because we physically don't know. It's the same thing. Guides around here, they think the population on certain species have gone down. I've said it a billion times. I said we don't know. I promise you, what we catch with a rod and reel does not factor what the population is.
I can tell you what there is a population of everywhere on that lake is blue cats and channel cats. I think I saw like probably 5 or 6 cat boats set up like fishing during the tournament, and every single one of them I watched net something between like 10 and 40 pounds. It's unbelievable, especially if you go out and scope and look around. I caught a lot of really nice blue cats in this tournament, like the first couple days of practice, because they'll act just like a bass. It has to have the most dense population of catfish, and that's something that you probably catfish more than you bass fish out there now, don't you?
100%. Yeah, I actually just catfished yesterday. I had a catfish trip yesterday, and then I bass guide in the next 2 days, and then I'm heading to the classic. And then when I get back home, I catfish guide. I'm pretty sure every day until we leave for Logan Martin.
That's got to be stress-free because you have to know you're going to go out and catch them. Like, do you ever have a day where they don't bite?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's just like a bass.
Really?
It's weird. It's weird. It's like I thought when I first started catfish guiding, I was like, this is gonna be easy. It's gonna be fun. This is actually the toughest month of the year to catch catfish. March is
because they're moving up shallow.
Yeah, they're just transitioning. All winter long they were in that river channel, and they were, sitting there gorging. On bait for 2 or 3 months, and now the warm weather, they're starting to spread out on us. They're making it a little bit harder because as a guide, I want to fill up a cooler, like 150 quart cooler of them. So I ain't looking for 1 or 2 fish. I'm looking to catch 20. I want a big population of them. So it's they're just they're just spread out right now. We're not on big flurries. Like yesterday, it was just like one every 30 minutes, which is slow.
Still pretty good.
It's not bad, but if you come with me out here when we catch them like every 10
when's the
seconds.
best time? When's the best time? Like, when's the 10-second when you go out and you're like, oh, these folks are in June? Are you like
June,
completely
July.
booked in June already?
No, I'm not. No.
You're not. So if people want to jump in the pontoon, right?
Yeah, I got a big tritoon. I'm actually building a new one. I got a 32-foot boat I'm building now.
And right now you have a brand new lower unit on that one you're working on, right?
I got a brand new motor.
Where can people, if they want to get in the catfish boat with you and wrangle some of these? Because dude, it was like super fun to watch these guys, because you could tell like a lot of them like weren't expert anglers, and they're just like hanging on, like just hanging on while these things just go nuts.
And it's fun, like in the summertime especially. That's why I always think it's fun. We catch them shallow in the cypress trees. I mean, we're anchored up in the trees, and you're casting real short distances. But we use 6.6 medium spinning rods. I mean, little spinning rods to make it fun. I mean, you hook a 30, 40, 50 pounder on a spinning rod, you're about to see something. But best way to find me is KyleAustinOutdoors.com or Facebook, Kyle Austin Guide Service, Santee Cooper Lakes, or you can pretty much find me anywhere on social media. Just look up Kyle Austin. I'll pop up somewhere.
What's it run for a day of catting?
$450 for the first 2 people, and $50 each additional, up to 6. So if you got
how many hours?
6 to 8 hours. All
oh, dude, that's a freaking steal.
I know. It's honestly, I wish we charged more, but that's just kind of what the price is. All the guides are somewhere between $400 to $500, so I'm just right in the middle. But bass guiding, I charge a little bit more than everybody else.
Oh, so you'll even take people out on you take people out on Santee bass guiding now. I would imagine that's going to pop off too, especially after the dub.
I know. I've had a lot of phone calls, but I don't do many trips. I only do it March, April, May. It's the only time I do bass trips, and usually I'm looking for more experienced anglers. I'm not, no offense, but I'm not trying to. I can't take beginners to Santee Cooper and expect them to catch one. You know, it's a hard place to catch a bass.
Yeah, I can't even go to Santee Cooper and expect to catch one, Kyle.
I know. It's a hard place. I mean, most of the time we're making precise casts. I mean, this time of year is fun because I can take them shallow, and we can sight fish. We can throw at trees. I mean, that's a good time.
So, like catfish wise, like say like that your group wants to bring like a charcuterie board and a couple cold pops. Like you're good with that too. Like I would imagine everyone has a freaking great time out there.
Yeah, it's a great time. I mean, that's why I enjoy it. I mean, I would be satisfied if they told me I couldn't bass fish tomorrow and I just stay home with catfish guide the rest of my life. I'd be perfectly fine.
What's the biggest blue you've ever caught out there?
On the guide trip, 63 pounds.
Oh my gosh. Do you cut that, or does that one go back?
No, we released that one.
Yeah. 63 pounds?
Yeah.
Was that just a rodeo?
Yeah, it took us probably, I think, 10, 15 minutes to get it in. We were drifting out in the dead forest. You know, I use drift socks and we drift backwards. And we hooked it out in the dead forest, and I'm pretty sure it hung us up on every stump from the time it bit to the time we got to the boat.
And then what's the biggest channel? Because I caught a couple like real nice channels.
Yeah, I don't know about biggest channel. Probably, I really don't catch many of them.
Okay. And then you catch flatheads ever?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Catch flatheads. I've never caught like a real giant flathead. I've caught like a 52 last year.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, probably one of the bigger ones we've caught. The population of flatheads has not been great on Santee the last few years.
I got you. You mentioned you're going to the Bassmaster Classic. A little bit different vibe for you going to the Classic now, knowing that you're in the Classic next year. I mean, you're going to take it in differently. You're going to do anything different, anything you're going to avoid, anything you're going to make sure that you experience, take in, see?
I mean, nothing too crazy. I wasn't going to go to the Classic this year. I was actually going to stay home and guide, and then I won the tournament, and then I'm like, man, I want to show it for my sponsors now. You know, I want this guys that have been supporting me since day one. I at least want to go for them. And so I got some guides taking some of my trips for me, and I'm a head out there. And I mean, nothing too crazy. I mean, they say it's the perfect time to win a tournament, right before the Classic or right before ICAST. And
no, it is.
I get it. You know, I mean, I'm gonna use it to an advantage or whatnot, but I mean, I got great sponsors now. I just want to build those relationships even better. You know, they've been with me since I was nobody, so I want to I want to try to stay with the same group of people.
That's what I was say. Talk about the feedback that you did get from your sponsors after the win. It's no secret. It's an expensive road to hoe in the Bassmaster Open EQs. I mean, you're 40K in with no guarantee of getting anything back. And even if you have a good tournament, you probably broke even last year and cashed in like 7 out of the 9, which is crazy to think about. But were you surprised at the feedback from not only the fan base and the supporters, but also your sponsors as well? Because you have, quite a good sponsor resume.
Yeah. So, I mean, industry sponsors they were all supportive. They all know the deal. When you win a tournament, it's a big deal. So everybody's reached out. It's been great on that side. But I have a lot of sponsors that have nothing to do with fishing. They didn't even know what fishing was until, it was me. So they kind of take them on the journey of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. You're fishing all the opens. And I got guys that could tell me more about the points than I can. And they had no idea what professional bass fishing was 2 years ago. So it's kind of cool to see them. And then for them, it's more of, man, they don't care about their logo on the side of my boat. Like, that doesn't gonna make them more money selling asphalt or construction. Like, they get that. But for them, it's kind of like a little bit of pride, like they see the local guy win, and then their local companies just on Bassmaster's website, all look like flooding the internet. They just think it's more just, it's cool to them. I mean, it kind of gets them outside the outside world. So, but both sides, my fishing industry sponsors and non-fishing related sponsors, man, they've been great. And, hopefully we can keep the same kind of little family together, and maybe we can, obviously try to add some more, because it is expensive.
Anything else you want to get in here before I let you go, man?
Man, that's it. I just appreciate you letting me come on and talk about a little Santee and talk about the win. It was great.
It's got to be weird because Santee is a lake that does have secrets. There's very few lakes that have secrets anymore. Santee has secrets.
And I just gave away like the best secret on the lake on Fox Sports 30 last Saturday.
Yeah, but I mean, that being said too, like, your guide out there, so you make your living on the lake. You got all your buddies who are out there. You got probably the old men who are like, now don't be going, don't be giving this away. And it's got to be such a weird balancing act of being educational, giving good information, telling people what's going on without just like blowing out stuff that's taken you and everyone else around there like a lifetime to figure out, because a lot of people made that lake look incredibly easy in that Bassmaster Open. But if you look at the standings, there's also a lot of anglers that were befuddled out there. And we hit it at the perfect time of the year, and it was probably the biggest. It's a very tricky lake, even when it's fishing incredibly well. Is that a fair assessment? Probably the trickiest well-known lake in the country, even 100%. At the peak. And we hit that thing. I don't think we could have hit it any better.
No, I mean, it was definitely, you're not going to get a better week, because even I've been fishing the last week and it's gotten a lot tougher. The pressure on the lake is crazy right now. But I will say the coolest story I got is a guy named Lex Costas. He's a local guy around here, man. He's won 1 million tournaments fishing current. I mean, that's what everybody knows he does. And I never fished any of where I know he's fished forever, but it was cool for him to, he texted me. I looked at my phone after the tournament. He's texting me every 30 minutes during the tournament, on Bass Track. And I just like look back. So for him to be like the first guy to call me and the support, it was pretty cool, because I grew up watching him dominate tournaments around here and, fishing that kind of style. But I had my own deal. Like I learned that spot from being in a John boat drifting in the current myself. So it was kind of cool. I felt like I won it for all the locals around here. It was when I went through the no wake zone in the canal the final day. There was a local tournament out of Blacks, and all I could hear was, it was pouring down rain. All there was horns, fist bumps, screaming.
Oh, that's cool.
They're all passing by, and luckily enough, everybody had a lot of respect. They all knew where I was starting, so nobody was sitting there when I got there.
That's cool.
Man.
Moved up to 23rd in the Open EQs. You made no secret about it. Your ultimate goal is to make the Bassmaster Elite Series in 2025, but off to a good start, in good shape, a third of the way in the Bassmaster Classic next year. So if anyone's in that area, I mean, based on what I've seen and based on how I know Kyle, you need to book him for a catfish trip, even if it was just a couple of your buddies for a day. I mean, that is money well spent, in my opinion. If you like, I feel like as bass anglers, like, you forget what it's like to hook something that makes the decisions. Because 99% of the time we're making the decisions on where that fish comes in, how quickly he comes in, we're reeling things in. When you hook something and it's making the decision on where it goes, how long it goes, and why it's going there, that's something that I think is why there's so many guys that are addicted to the salt water. So many guys, we just don't hook a lot of big stuff that can own you. And
I'm just addicted to fishing. I don't care what we catch. Dude, my buddy called me tomorrow and be like, hey, we're going to go catch some mudfish up in the creek tomorrow. You want to come? I'll be like, damn right. Like, we're going.
I think we'll just leave it on that, mudfish.
All right. I just want to catch something.
I hear you. All right. I'm going to let you go. I greatly appreciate the time. Take it easy. Congrats, man. That was awesome.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, Kyle Austin. All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll break down Redcrest and talk about what we have going on at the Bassmaster Classic this week, BTL, on a Monday. We'll be back right after this.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water anchors. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Break Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Brake Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
Yes. Fishing isn't just a hobby, it's an obsession. Whether it's blazing hot or bitterly cold, bright sunshine, raining, or even snowing, someplace, somewhere, there's a fish that's ready to bite. And as the angler, you need baits that will catch the fish anywhere, anytime, no matter the conditions. From throwing topwaters to cranking the depths, know the baits to throw. Choose Spro.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out. I'm the kind of guy that never leaves the house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com. All right, wrapping things up here, a interesting week of Redcrest over on Lake that just wrapped up. Dustin Connell getting his second Redcrest win, which puts him in rare company as far as an angler with 2 championship victories. A little bit of an interesting format. You had all 50 anglers, actually 50 anglers in that field competed on days 1 and 2. And then they zeroed the weights for the top 20 for the knockout round. And then they also zeroed the weights again for the top 20 for the championship round, which is very interesting. I got some emails from listeners that were like, hey, here's how things would have shaken out under different formats, which is really hard to figure out because, I mean, obviously, if you watch any of it, you saw Michael Neal kind of laid off of his fish early on 2 days. You had guys that kind of bided their time because they knew once they were in, there was no reason to burn fish. But Connell, incredibly consistent. He was fourth after day one with 36 pounds. Remember, this every fish counts format. Then he was second after day two. He only had 9 for 25 on day two. Then he won the knockout round. He had 52, 15, 18 fish on that. And then in the championship round, absolutely blew the field away. I mean, it wasn't even close after the first couple of periods. He had 28 fish, 83 pounds. Alton Jones Jr. finishes second with 52-2 in that. And then Rod Nelson, who made a run, he was leading the thing early. I really like Rod Nelson, probably very fair cloth like for Rod Nelson. You look at his Angler of the Year finishes and his tournament finishes and the way he goes about his business. Rod Nelson with a third place finish. Good to see Takahiro back in it. I thought maybe there was a moment, when Takahiro was up in the muddy water, catching those fish on the moving baits, the bright baits, the largemouth bass. I thought maybe there was a little I knew it moment coming for Takahiro, but in the end, he finishes 50 pounds back. And then the guy who I think we all thought was kind of in the catbird seat leading into the final two rounds, Michael Neal, ends up finishing 10th in that event, which, man, I did not realize the payouts. Obviously, first place, $300,000 for Dustin Connell, who got that, but Michael Neal only got $12,500 for 10th, and then 11th through 20th got $10,000 in show out money, and then the second half of the field only got $5,000 show up money in the no entry fee Redcrest, which I thought was I thought the payouts were better than that, so that's an interesting thing. Also, you have to watch that differently than you would a five fish format, because what you have to understand is, Michael Neal's not catching as much as he can in the first couple of rounds. Dustin Connell's probably not catching as much as he can in the first couple of rounds. And there's a group of guys that have figured out fish management, where to be, when to be, and how to make the most of that format. And I think it's pretty obvious that Dustin Connell is one of the best to ever do it in this game, especially with the wins that he has under his belt. Alton Jr. slowly or quietly also becoming lethal with that MLF format. So a good Redcrest from what I've heard. Talked to a couple people at the expo. They said it was very navigable, decent numbers at times, not packed like they thought it might be, but also you can't put a lot of that on MLF because there are a ton of different events that were going on in that area around Lay Lake too. So Redcrest in the books, Dustin Connell, and now the focus shifts to the Bassmaster Classic. Did an interesting call with Dave Mercer over on the Facts of Fishing YouTube channel that just went out this morning. We're back doing those calls as to whether Jason Christie will spend the majority of his time offshore using forward-facing sonar or up shallow. Grand Lake in a very interesting situation. We haven't really seen it in this kind of shape this time of the year in a number of years. Very mild winter, very warm days, very warm nights. A lot of the lake is clear. There are some places that have a lot of color in it, but we're talking upper 50s water temperature. Stable conditions going into it. I think there's going to be a bunch of guys who are going there after their pre-practice and after 3 days of practice that were really hoping those fish would stay offshore. There's a group of guys that are hoping those fish move shallow. Grand Lake is one of the few lakes where it's very hard to separate yourself weight wise because there's not a lot of freak shows in that lake. A 5-6 pounder is a big fish. We did see a 27-28 pound bag there by Edwin back in the classic 6-7 years ago. But I think Grand Lake, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I've been proven wrong on this numerous times this year and last year already, but I think Grand Lake is one of the lakes with the conditions that we're going in with a small field where there will be a couple anglers who are able to keep pace shallow with the guys who are catching them offshore, whether that's on a minnow, on a jerk bait, on a jig. Those are pretty much the three main things that are going to play up there. But I think the flat side, the square bill, the spinner bait, flipping, the chatter bait, a shallow jerk bait, something like that. I think you're going to be shocked at how many guys, especially with guys like Luke Palmer and Jason Christie in the field, are going to be able to make stuff happen up shallow. I might be totally wrong. We might get day one and look at the camera boats and everybody's offshore, but I look at right around 20 to 21 pounds to win. There's been future bass tournaments. There's been Nichols team series out there. Have not seen any freak show bags, really solid 20-pound bags in the top 10, 21, 22 wins. 5 or 6 pounder is a big kicker out there. So I think the lake is shaping up for a really good classic as far as viewing, as far as watching. And I would be extremely surprised going into that final day if more than half of the guys are doing exactly the same thing. I think it's going to be really spread out around different parts of the lake from above Sailboat Bridge all the way down to Ketchum. I think you're going to have guys that go into that final day with a chance to win. So schedule, we will be there. Frank Scalish will be there too. We will have a day 4 this week. I think it'll be recorded. Pete Robbins tomorrow on BTL, by the way, and then a classic preview on Wednesday show. But Friday, 12 to 1, I'll be with Omnia, and then Saturday at 12:30, we'll be at the Pradco booth with Frank Scalish, a limited run of color number 7s. We're going to give those away to those who are there at the booth at 12:30. You can chat with Frank. At 2 o'clock, we'll be at the Bass Tank booth. I really encourage, if you guys are looking to add something that's economically feasible. I've been using the power breaks a lot in tournaments and also just fun fishing. Come by, check that out. They should have a set of power breaks there. So I'll be at the Bass Tank at 2. Also a lot of Bassmaster Classic deals there. Then on Sunday, 11 o'clock at the Bass Tank, and then 12 o'clock on Sunday too. If you're just coming one day to the Bassmaster Classic, we will save some of these color number 7s to give out also. Nano Alpha hooks. Follow Gamakatsu USA. If you remember, we had Ted on last week on the show. I'll also be at the Gamakatsu booth. Stay tuned to my social media at Matt Pangrek on Instagram is what I'll be updating for when they'll be giving out those Gamakatsu Nano Alpha, the new coating on the hook packs that they'll be giving out both Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Also, AFCO. And then if you saw, we're running a new ad for Pro Guide batteries. They've been working on this for a number of years too. They just came out with their new charger. So if you guys are in the market for a new charger, especially if you've gone the lithium route recently, stop by Pro Guide. I'll have the dates and times on when I will be at that booth. We're also going to have Pate on from Pro Guide tomorrow, just for a quick segment to talk a little bit about those new chargers, and then also stop by the Basscat booth. I'll be there. Rick will be there. Matt Looney will be there to check out what's going on new at Basscat. So, all right, that's all we got for today. Tomorrow, Pete Robbins, classic preview. He's in town in Tulsa, or en route to Tulsa. So looking forward to having a little classic preview with one of the best, if not the best writer and outdoor writer in the game right now, Pete Robbins. And like I said, classic preview on Wednesday, Uncle Frank on Thursday. Then the Expo opens on Friday, along with day 1 of the Bassmaster Classic, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on Grand Lake in Oklahoma. That is all we've got for today. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Thanks for jumping on. See ya.